fun stream this week. It's been I don't want to say it's been a really long week, but it's kind of been a long week. There's been a lot of stuff going on. A lot of things have been happening over the course of this week, and there's some really good news. Really good news has come out of this week. So at the end of the stream, I'll explain exactly what that means, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Right now, we're going to start making some noodles. Now, there is somebody in one of the discords that I'm a part of, the Ninja Monkeys streamer support group, that goes by the handle of Spicy Tofu. And for about 2.5, 3 weeks now, every time this person has jumped into any of my streams, they have asked if I'm making spicy tofu. So, for them, and I reached out to them earlier, I'm really hoping they show up today. For them and for them alone, well, not for them alone, because obviously I really like this, we are going to make some spicy tofu noodles, and they're going to be awesome. Now, spicy tofu. How are we going to do this? Well, it's first of all, tofu is a great alternative if you know how to use it to meat. Now, around here, we do like to substitute a meatless dish every once in a while into our repertoire to try to keep it a little bit lighter. Not to say that this is light by any means, but you are removing meat out of the equation. You are replacing it with the tofu. Now, I have purchased simple traditional style tofu from a Chinese grocery market. Now, the traditional one I find is firm enough. Now, if you want it really, really firm, you can go for an extra firm or even a firm level. But traditional is just firm enough that you don't have to cook it too long to make sure it's nice and warm all the way through. Now, we're going to give it a really simple cornstarch crust, and we're just going to kind of shallow fry it and going to make it really, really delicious. Now, that is going to go on top of our stir-fry noodles that we're going to make. Now, I have decided on the heavier style mandarin noodles. Now, once again, we went out to one of our local Chinese markets and picked up some really well-sourced, good quality, pre-done Chinese noodles. Now, the nice thing about these are heat and serve. You keep them in your fridge until you need them. You get everything ready to go. You get your mix of them. You throw your noodles in. You hit it with sauce. Once everything kind of comes to a quick simmer and the noodles are nice and warm, you're ready to eat. Now, that makes these a really nice quick meal. Something that once you kind of get the handle on, it's very easy to execute. So we're going to get right into this, and we're going to start getting our mise en place ready to go, which is just all the stuff we're going to put into our stir fry, as well as get our tofu set. So we're going to keep it very, very simple as far as vegetables go when it comes to the actual ingredients into the noodle stir fry. Now, what we're using today is just a simple green cabbage, some carrot, some onion, and a little bit of garlic. Now, all of this is very basic, very kind of traditional, where as far as putting into a stir fry or into a noodle dish, everything really absorbs flavor really well. So all we're going to do is we are simply going to trim our onion, pull the skin off there. This one looks like it's going to be tight, so we're just going to pull a full layer off. Just use that nice inside layer for a second. Now, I personally really like strips of onion in most of my dishes, so I'm going to do a very simple, just straight up and down julienne on each half of this onion. Now, I just saw a couple pieces of skin. We want to get that out of there. Not that it doesn't taste good, it's just an unpleasant texture. Now again, on the half of the onion, you're going to tuck your thumb in the back, take your knife, you're going to put the point down on the end of the cutting board to keep yourself stable. You are going to use your hand with your thumb tucked into the back to push your onion through your blade as you're slicing. And all it is simple up and down motion. You never fully take your knife off the board. When you get a little over halfway through and it starts to become a little on the steep side, simply tip it over and start the exact same process for the other side. Once you get to that last bit, just be a little extra careful, cut slowly, and you're going to make it right through. Now I'm going to take that, I'm just going to put that into a bowl and set that aside for now. Now, Cabbage. Obviously, we're not going to use this entire cabbage. I personally love cabbage in stir fries. I love cabbage in general. I am a big cabbage person. But in stir fries, there's something really special about quick cooked, thinly sliced cabbage and soy sauce in particular, the way it adheres to it, the way it kind of sucks into the membrane and really pulls out that flavor in it. It is just, it's spectacularly delicious. It's one of my favorite ways to serve cabbages with that kind of soy sauce flavor. So on this cabbage, which is a fairly small green cabbage for what we find around here anyway, I'm going to take about a quarter off the one side, kind of towards the root. This we're going to save for another day. We might make a slaw out of that, might make some sauerkraut, who knows. Now, this is perfect right now to get into the slice. Now, all I'm going to do is take that top layer off, because that outside layer, we just don't want to use that. Now, the inside here, again, you're just going to take your knife and you're going to very, very thinly do the exact same process that we did when we cut our onion. But we're just going to do it very, very, very thinly to make very thin julienne ribbons of cabbage. Now again, we're just going to go all the way through until we get a little bit of a steepness on the one side. We're going to flip it over and we're just going to do the exact same process in the last little bit of cabbage. Now, I've used the mandolin piece of equipment on here before. Now, that's something you could also use in place of a knife if you're a little bit more comfortable using a mandolin. Cut it exactly the same way, but cut that piece in half and run it really quickly and on the thin side on the mandolin, and you'll get about the same process. So that's our carrot. Now the nice thing about this too is we can take a look and see we have just a little bit of discoloration on a little bit of the inside. So we're just going to get that out of there. So now we have our cabbage. Again, nice thing about this is we are keeping our prep very simple. We're not messing around with anything. Now I'm just going to take some garlic. Now I've got, what, 4 cloves of garlic, 4 and a little bit cloves of garlic. Garlic preference, how much you use. Use some, but how much you use, completely up to your taste. Really, in any of my stir fry or fried rice dishes, 5 is basically a minimum that I'm going to use. But this dish is augmented by a mixture of sauces that all have their own kind of standout flavor notes that are really going to accentuate throughout the entire dish. So I'm not using an exceedingly large amount of garlic here simply because we are going to use a lot of other flavors on top of that. So I'm just going to quickly clean my board off with that garlic paper. Now, once again, this is generally the way I will do all garlic. I've done this before, and we're just going to show you again. Take your knife, flat part of your knife on there, take the heel of your hand, press down, and that's going to crush and that's going to activate your garlic. We're going to do that with all of our pieces. We're going to crush them up real nice. Break all those water bonds, get them going. Little guy there. All right, and then we are just going to very quickly, and again, this takes a little bit more finger control. You got to make sure, you're going to use your finger and your index finger and your thumb to pinch, and you're just going to run across, and you're going to do, again, a really nice thin julienne style cut. Now, for me, I like leaving slightly larger pieces that naturally come from cutting it this way. Sometimes I'll turn this to the side and I will re-go through it and I will fine dice it. But what I really like right now are these bigger pieces. They are going to be nice, prominent, standout pieces of garlic that are really going to be flavor bombs when you get into them. We're going to add them right into our cabbage because this is going to be kind of added almost last minute. And we're going to flash cook everything. Now, the carrot, the cheese grater. We're going to take the tips of the carrot. Get rid of that. Take the carrot, get yourself a good cheese grater. These things are worth everything you spend on them. And you don't have to spend a lot to get a good one. Honestly, if you got a Winners, a Target, whatever, you can get a really decent cheese grater for spending just a touch more money, and I highly recommend it. So, we've got really super tiny holes, we've got the bigger ones. We're going to do this on the larger size, so we get a nice sized carrot shred. So, we're just going to go straight down through the cheese grater. I'm going to use just a little over half of that carrot, which is going to give us that really nice shred. And now this is going to be very, very nice and fresh because it's sweet, it's freshly cooked. Well, it will be freshly cooked, and it's going to and we're going to flash cook it so quickly right before we add the noodles in that it's not going to lose a lot of that sweetness. So, cabbage, garlic, carrot in one bowl, onions in the other for getting ready to get into the pan. But first, we are going to start to prep our tofu. So, we are just going to take a quick wipe of the board. Get the onion residue off my knife. Now, like I said, I purchased a container of traditional tofu from one of the Asian supermarkets here in town. And just before the stream, I opened up the package and I put it in a colander to drain off the liquid that is packed in. Because we want to try and dry this off a little bit. Now, if you've never seen tofu before, this is basically what tofu looks like. It isn't the most appetizing looking thing by itself. And even people that eat this on a very regular basis will 100% tell you that it doesn't look appetizing. It doesn't even smell that good. But the beautiful thing about tofu is that it accepts all the flavors, and you can cook it many, 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 many different ways. Frying it is one of the most beautiful things you can do to tofu because it adds just a caramelization flavor on the outside. As with anything, when you're deep frying or you're cooking, you are caramelizing the sugars that naturally occur in food. And tofu has a lot of really beautiful sugars that naturally occur. So, now that I've taken my time and we've dried that off, I'm just going to kind of dry the edges off just a little bit. We can now slice this into pieces. Sorry about that. I just had to correct a young human who was talking out of turn. My apologies to anybody on the stream. So, now we're going to take our knife. We're going to take this and we're going to cut it straight down the center. And then what we're going to do with these two pieces is we are just going to cut nice big chunks. So, what I mean by big chunks is we are basically going to cut pieces that big. About a half an inch thick by about an inch and a little bit deep. And then what we are going to do is we are going to very gently toss this in some cornstarch and get this ready for frying. Now, again, the nice thing about this is that you can do this in a pan fry situation. You don't have to deep fry this. Alright, now I am just going to do the one piece there for now, and we'll do something with that other piece maybe tomorrow night. Now, if you do take all the tofu out of the water, it will last about a night. Just wrap it up really nicely, put it in your fridge. Don't use it anything over that. It will dehydrate. It will become very unpleasant. Make sure you do put it in a bowl. This will, what's the word I'm looking for? It will release water as it's sitting overnight. So, we're now going to get into the process of starting to build everything that we're making here. So, I'm going to get my frying pan on here, and my other frying pan on over here. Now, the pan I'm doing the tofu in is going to be a little on the higher side. And we don't need, again, we're not deep frying this. We're not sinking it all the way in. We're pan frying, so we're shallow frying. You only want enough that when you start to put these pieces of tofu into the oil, it raises that oil level to about halfway. Now, anything over than that, then you're starting to deep fry, and then you're going to get uneven cooking when you flip it. So that's why I recommend the halfway mark. So we're going to let that heat up. This pan, on the other hand, this is our stir fry pan. So we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of oil to our stir frying pan, and it's just a little bit more medium heat right now. Because what I want to do is I'm going to get my onions going in here, and they're going to be it's going to be pretty mellow. We don't want to really rush to really kind of cook our onions very quickly. We want to sweat them out because we want to pull out some of that sweetness, and we want to really, really get a good onion flavor going. So while these pans are heating up, we can get into one of the next parts of this. So we're going to put together a quick stir fry sauce. Now, in this bowl, right away, I'm starting with, that's 1 teaspoon of just regular sugar. Now, this is basically just an amalgamation of sauces that you can find at any Asian grocery store. These are simple, basic, you're going to find them everywhere you go. I have good Kikkoman soy sauce, the naturally brewed kind. We are going to add 2 tablespoons of soy sauce to that sugar, just like that. We are going to follow that up with 1 fresh tablespoon of one of my favorite sauces on this planet, hoisin sauce. It's sweet. It's use it as a dipping sauce. Oh my goodness! Just by itself with spring rolls, delicious. So we're putting 1 tablespoon of that in there. That out of the way. Now that we have that, now we get into the kind of secret ingredient. Now, oyster sauce. It's a little heavy. It's a little strong in odor. It's slightly pungent, but it goes a little goes a long way with this kind of sauce. Basically, it's a mixture of all kinds of shellfish brines, cornstarch, and browning liquid, and they turn it into a sauce. It's so necessary, though. Honestly, this thing is so good. It adds so much flavor. Don't use it if you're allergic to shellfish, though. Please, 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 please. Always read the label of every Asian sauce you buy, because a lot of them end up having shrimp paste in them and you're not aware of it. So please, please, please look for the English translation. If you can't find it, go and find somebody in the store to help you out. Now, oyster sauce. We're going to add 3 teaspoons of oyster sauce. Just like that. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to give this just a real quick stir with that spoon. We're going to set this to the side. Now the key to remember is this doesn't look like a lot of sauce considering how many noodles and how much vegetables we're using. But the thing you have to remember is that these types of Asian dishes are not saucy. They're not. They don't have a lot of sauce dripping onto the bottom. They have a little bit of oil, but not sauce. They're a lot lighter in sauce anyway than people give them credit for. So we're going to add our onions into the pan. Again, just a slight sizzle going in there. And we're just going to start to cook those down. Just to get the nice and soft. And get the sharpness out of them right off the bat. Alright, now our oil, I'm now going to turn down to right in between medium-high, which on me, for me is a 7 on my stove here. Now, again, a bowl with just very simple cornstarch, nothing added in here. And all we're going to do is we're going to take our tofu and very gently, we're going to dredge it, which is really just a fancy word for coating. Let's see if we can do this a little bit here. And the cornstarch. So again, we're not being fancy with it. All we're doing is just making sure that each of those pieces is covered nicely. We're just going to knock the extra off. And we're just going to, whoop, that one broke, that's okay. Alright, so that's going to start to bubble right away, that's perfect. So this tofu is just going to go right into the pan. Just like that. Alright, looks like I can put another couple of slices in there. Woo, cornstarch explosion. That can go in there. That guy can go in there. Alright, now we're just going to keep a really good eye on that. we're just going to let that fry. And all we're going to do is we are just going to set up a plate here with some paper towel. So when these guys come out, we can just lay them on there and let them dry off just a little bit. So we're just going to pull that off. All right. So back to our stir fry. Now those onions have just been kind of sitting there. Going to pull up just a little bit of color, but they are starting to sweat. So we're going to turn up our heat again, just a touch, and that's really kind of now all coming together. So this, we're just going to come over here, making sure everything is doing exactly what it's being told to do, which so far this is looking spectacular. So we're just going to kind of leave that alone right now. So while we have our onions cooking, we've made our sauce, our vegetables are ready, our tofu is in. One last small sauce to make. Now, at the end of this process, we're going to turn this into a sweet and spicy tofu noodle dish. So, plum sauce. Just basic, good old plum sauce. Now, the ratio on this is basically a 2-to-1 ratio. I'm not going to tell you exactly how much I'm putting in here because I'm not measuring. So we do plum sauce and then we do sambal. Now, if you don't know sambal, you need to go and meet sambal. If you like heat and you like garlic, you need to be best friends with this, my friend. Get the green lid. Buy this. It's awesome. We're going to add that in. Right there. At about a, again, 2-to-1 sweet to heat. Now all we're going to do is we're going to give that a real quick spin. Oh, yeah. Now, if you're looking at that going, boy, does that sauce ever look familiar? Yeah, pretty much every single restaurant chain on the planet released a version of that sauce at some point in the last couple of years. Okay, onions, a little bit of color, starting to sweat. Now, cabbage, garlic, carrots, everything goes in. Everything. All we're going to do now is we are just going to turn that heat up just a touch. We're going to rotate that so that cabbage gets all the way down to the bottom. And now we're just going to let that cook down just a little bit. In the meantime, back to our tofu, which we are now going to flip. Oh, baby, yeah. That is exactly what we are looking for there. That is the crust. That is the color. That is everything right now. That's going to be so good on top of this noodle dish. It's going to get unreal up in here. So, put that tofu. Let that cook. You don't want to eat that, guys. Tofu. Aww. It's pressed bean curd. Oh. Yeah, wait till it's done, okay? Trust me, wait till it's done.
I like tofu.
I have a very, very excited young man for noodles tonight. So again, we are just going to move that around. That cabbage is going to start to release a lot of moisture, which is why we love the cabbage in here, because it's going to release a lot of moisture, it's going to shrink, and it's going to hydrate our pan, which is then we're going to put on our sauce, our noodles. That hydration that's going to come out of the cabbage is going to extend our sauce. It's going to thin it just a little bit. It's going to take a little bit of that punch out of the top end of that sauce. Because right now, if you were to dip your finger in that and put a little bit in your mouth, it hits you like a sodium bomb. It's a lot of salt. This mixture right here changes almost all of that. Add that in with the creaminess and the crispy texture of the fried tofu that we're then going to coat and we're then going to toss in a sweet chili heat style sauce, which is going to give another dimension of flavor. It's going to pull a little bit more of that sodium away by adding a little bit of sweet, a little bit of heat. We're going to top it with a little bit of fresh green onion and some Brussels sprouts, because what's stir-fried noodles without, sorry, not Brussels sprouts, fine, bean sprouts. What's a stir-fried noodle dish without bean sprouts? I don't know. I don't think it's actually a stir-fried noodle dish. So again, we are just going to let this really kind of come together nice and slow. We don't want to overcook this. We don't want to overwork it. We don't want that cabbage getting super caramelly. We don't want it really, really cooked. We want it soft. We want it soft because if it's cooked, that means all the water's gone. and we don't want all the water gone. We just want it soft. And that's a big, big, big difference when doing anything that involves cabbage. So those tofu bits are just about done. So I'm going to take the rest of these, add them into my cornstarch, which again is just cornstarch. Now you can use rice flour if you want for this as well. If you don't want to use the cornstarch, that's perfectly okay. Now all we're looking again for this is color, and we want to make sure that it's warm all the way through. Now again, this texture of tofu, I'm not worried about the warmth. That's going to be there. I just want that crispiness because I want it to stand up to when we put it in the sauce. And I want it to be able to kind of hang out here for a few minutes while we fry the other batch, because I really want to make sure that this ends up keeping its crispiness. I want it to lose that. Whew. A little water coming out of that one. So again, we're just going to come back into here. We're going to take our tofu bits. We're just going to put them right into the deep fryer. I'm just going to use my fingers this time. And we're just going to get these guys all in here, fried up nice and golden brown, and ready to go on top of noodles. So, that one broke in half, but that's okay because that can be our taster when it comes out. So, all right. So, that's out now. Now we come back once again, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, to our noodles. All right. So, we're good on our cook, on everything here. So, the next step, time to open up our noodles. So, again, the nice thing about these is these are ready to go. They are 100% cooked, blanched, cooled down, nice and starchy, nice and rubbery, just the way we're looking for. So I'm just going to take these exactly like this and take those out of the package. And all we're going to do is we're just going to kind of put that guy right on top. Followed by the other one. Now, I'm just going to, the only reason I'm pressing on those is just to kind of force them down to the bottom of the container, the pan, just to kind of, again, push up some of that water to start to kind of just get those noodles steaming, get a little bit of heat towards them, so we can get everything kind of cooking and working in the right way. And then we can start getting stuff out of there. So, that's tofu, just about crisping up nicely. So, we're going to come back to our noodles. Now, I'm just going to take my tongs. I'm going to start to break up these noodles a little bit. Now that they're getting warm, they're going to start moving. Don't try that at home. I probably shouldn't have either. But I did, and there it is. So, we got these noodles. They're going to come apart. Noodles. Seriously though. Who doesn't love like really good noodles? So, we've now got those split apart a little bit. I'm going to now take my sauce mixture. And we're going to now pour that all over there. I'm going to add, because I can tell already I don't have quite enough, we're going to add a little extra soy. About 2 tablespoons of soy. And another about a tablespoon of oyster sauce, just to make sure we had enough. Because that was looking, those noodles are going to absorb a lot more than what was there. So now all we're going to do is we're going to get this stuff moving around. Because all we want now is we want heat. You want to get heat to every part of this meal. You want to get sauce to every part of those noodles. Oh yeah, baby. Get that up off there. And that's going to start absorbing all of that sauce into those noodles. Now I'm going to turn my heat down to right around medium. We are going to flip our second batch of tofu, like so. Just like the first. And it kind of gets sweaty on top. Yeah, give her a flip. Hashtag something. Hashtag that's what she said, maybe? I don't know. Maybe. There we go. Ooh, crispy. All right. So now you can see that my oil is getting kind of cloudy. This is why we're not going to do a lot of frying this way, because that cornstarch is going to leave a lot of residue that's going to start burning in a little bit. So anything more than what we're doing, do it in more of a deep fry setting, and make sure that cornstarch, you knock a lot of that, more of that off. All right. Now, these noodles are looking awesome. Now, best part about my job is I get to do that. Okay. Now, just because we're live, of course, I'm going to add just a splash more soy. And a little kiss more of hoisin. Woo. That's a little bit more than a kiss, but that's okay. Hoisin's delicious. And then we're going to leave it at that. That's going to be the end of our sauce additions to this guy, I think. So now we're just going to move all these guys around. Oh yeah, baby. Keep them in the pan. Get all that good stuff there. Okay. Turn that down to very low, basically all the way down to simmer. Tofu's finishing. That's ready to go. Time to get some quick garnishes going. My favorite garnishes for anything stir-fry based will always be some freshly cut green onions. I'll do some of those later. Some freshly cut green onions and some bean sprouts. So the green onions, I like them very, very large when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I'm going to do nice big chunky cuts all the way across my onions. And we're going to do about that much. So that's, I don't know, probably about 2 whole onions worth. And then bean sprouts, all you got to do is buy these fresh. That's the big thing for bean sprouts. You buy them fresh. The day you're going to make something, because as soon as you open this bag, tomorrow, these are going to start to go brown and slimy. I'll tell you what. All right. So, noodles. Warm, salty, delicious. Tofu, crispy, silken, awesome, and done. So now we're going to take this off. Get this tofu out of the fryer, or I guess just out of the oil. Again, we are just going to let this guy cool down and get some of that extra oil off there, just real quick like. As such. Now, tap, tap, tap some of those. Those feel great. Now, last steps. We're going to take all these noodles. Oh, yeah. Look at all those noodles. Oh, man. I made enough for everybody. Look, viewing, I guess. I made too many noodles. Woo, noodles for days. Oh, well. Never enough noodles in life, I guess. Oh, no. Chef's done made too many noodles. Oh, well. Oh, well. Seriously, though, Chad, I totally wish you guys could come around and come share these, because I got lost. I got lost to share. Now, before I put the tofu in the sauce, we are going to take these beautiful bean sprouts. We're going to put them right on top, just like that. Now, the steam is immediately going to start to cook these and tenderize them and make them just amazing, but they're also going to keep a little bit of that firmness because we didn't put them in the pan. And that's important because the texture on that is super, super, super important. Now, after that, oh, chunky green onions. Chunky, chunky, chunky. All over the top. like that. And then last but not least, we're going to take this tofu now. I'm just going to show you what's going on in here. Now, we've just made a really nice crust on the outside of that tofu. What we're going to do is we're going to cover it in that. Because tofu tastes like nothing, doing something like this changes your outlook on tofu. So, we are just going to simply take all of our pieces of tofu. Now, at this point, as you're tossing these in your sauce, if they break, don't worry about it. If the crust comes off, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Luckily, these guys held together like absolute champs. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take these now, and we're just going to kind of place them on top, just like this. And we're just going to let them sit on top. Cook those green onions just a little bit. We're going to release all those beautiful flavors, those oils, all the freshness. Everything that's awesome about this dish is coming out when we start putting this stuff on top. And we can just get these guys all over the top here. And one more down in front, just for good measure. So, this is our spicy tofu mandarin noodles with bean sprouts and green onions. I hope what I've showed you here today, again, as I explain always whenever we get to the end of these, is maybe a different way to make something that you love, a way to make something that you love to order at home, or maybe just inspired you to go to your Asian grocery store and wander around and maybe pick something up. Again, if they don't have an English label, ask somebody there. They're totally willing to help you out. They love seeing people outside of their culture in there buying their stuff because they think it's great. They will absolutely help you out. So please do not be afraid to go in there and ask some questions and find out about some good stuff. So at the beginning of the stream, I said there was a little bit of good news in our life this week. So this week started off really amazingly. I have to give a shout out to my amazing wife who is behind the camera for me tonight and always. That's the one right there. This Sunday we hit 12 years married, and this Monday was our 16-year together anniversary. It has been a long time. It has been amazing, and it's only gotten better every single year. So nothing but love for you, my dear. I love you so much, and I'm so glad we're still rocking and rolling, and thank you for your help all the time. Now, the other big news is that we have made the arrangements for our young man to go back into school. So that's going to be an awesome experience for him to go back. Obviously, everything that's happened in the world, it's going to be a big challenge, but we're very, very excited. And the very last thing is, as of today, I got a really good piece of news. As some of you guys know, I had a trial job interview earlier this week that I guess went really well. They gave me a call, they offered me a job, so hopefully next week I will be starting off working back in the kitchen again. So that may change the schedule, so please keep an eye on all the social medias where I am active to see if any of the schedule changes happen, and if they do, you guys will be the first to know. As always, thank you everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming into my kitchen and giving me an outlet to produce food like this for my family. Yeah, awesome. I really appreciate everybody that's here. Thank you guys so much. And that's it for tonight. That's the whole thing. So we're gonna eat some noodles and we're gonna get cleaned up around here. So as always, I am Scott. I am the Uncensored Chef. Thank you for coming into my kitchen. Have a great night, and I hope you eat well this week.